In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's obsession with the past and future, they somehow forgot about the fossil Pokemon until the very end. As we're in the middle of Jurassic June, I usually like to take the time to chat about fossil Pokemon, where they are now and what we could see in the future. And after playing through the base game of Scarlet and Violet, and seeing that there were not only no brand new fossil Pokemon, but there weren't even any previous ones brought back, I was a bit disappointed. Though the reason for this was pretty obvious, that being that we got a bunch of ancient Paradox Pokemon. Professor Sada dreamt to bring in Pokemon from a distant past into the modern world, and she succeeded, kind of. We now have confirmation that Paradox Pokemon do not come from a direct past or future, but instead from alternate timelines right into ours. But the ancient Pokemon we got in Scarlet version were still interesting ways of utilizing the idea of prehistoric animals mixed with familiar Pokemon that we've known before. Even though these are mechanically different from fossil Pokemon, they still scratch the same kind of itch in terms of their designs. I totally understand why we did not get traditional fossil Pokemon in the same way that we usually would, but now that we've had time to enjoy the Teal Mask and Indigo Disc, which brought back some more older Pokemon, I was really surprised to find that the only fossils present were the Rampardos and Bastiodon evolution lines. Here in the Terrarium, it makes a little more sense. The entire place is an artificial ecosystem created for the students at Blueberry Academy just off the coast of the Unova region. So rather than incorporating fossil Pokemon into the wild through a remote location with Hollow Earth imagery in the same way as the Crown Tundra from Sword and Shield did, the feeling of the terrarium is a lot more akin to a wild animal safari park. I mean, one biome is literally a savanna with Pokemon that we normally see in the Safari Zone, so really the Blueberry Academy is the closest thing we have to a Jurassic Park stand-in for any Pokemon game. And all they brought along were the Sinnoh fossil Pokemon. Like, not even Archeops or Caracosta, what is wrong with you people? That part really is the most baffling, like why they chose them in the first place. For one thing, Sword and Shield gave a player access to every single fossil Pokemon up until that point except for the Sinnoh Pokemon, which were victims of the Dex cut. And the reasoning for that was very likely that we would later get Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl as well as Legends Arceus, where they can be found. So now I find it a bit odd that this is the case. I suppose you could say it's to allow players to transfer the most recent fossil Pokemon they caught, but to me fossil Pokemon's implementation is starting to feel even clunkier. Mostly because of the weird restrictions that Pokedex cuts are making now that we're at over 1,000 Pokemon. With the Crown Tundra, I was perfectly fine with them being out in the wild of a specific area as long as there could be a lore explanation. And nowadays a lot of Pokedex entries are saying these Pokemon are making a comeback because of all the restoration, so they really can just be found in the wild. I really do like the Paradox Pokemon, especially the trio that we ended up getting now complete in the DLC, because of just how much they all lean into the dinosaur aesthetic. But I'm starting to miss the rest of my buddies. With Scarlet and Violet now being finished, I would definitely give points to the ancient Pokemon, but for the fossils, there really isn't much going on. I'm really curious to see how things will go now, continuing in Generation 9 with Pokemon Legends ZA on the horizon. We don't have any information about this game other than the fact that it could be similar to Legends Arceus, though taking place in the Kalos region, so I at least think it may be safe to assume we'll see Tyrantrum and Aurorus make their return here. In Legends Arceus, you can find the fossil Pokemon inside space-time distortions as a way of maintaining the original Diamond and Pearl Pokedex within the confines of a historical setting, and I thought that was a really smart idea. Whatever method or name they end up using in Legends ZA doesn't matter all that much, because the point is there will more than likely be some way to attain these Pokemon. Though due to the nature of it being a Legends game, I think these might be the only evolution lines to appear here. With the base game of Generation 9 excluding most of the fossil Pokemon, it puts the overall series in a weird spot. I know that Sword and Shield basically spoiled me with how many were included, but with how I usually end up taking the time to look back on fossil Pokemon and how they're implemented into each game, it made me realize how that really was a peak and we might not see anything on that level ever again. Though like I said, this isn't to diminish the ancient Pokemon in Scarlet version because I am a big fan of them overall, and I think it was a great choice to mix things up and try something different. Also, we kinda need to consider the fact that they had to find ways of incorporating the Hisuian Pokemon as well, which most of them might as well just be on the same level as extinct Pokemon. What I've really learned over the years is that fossil Pokemon aren't the most feasible in the long run for the series, because of the mechanic of turning an item into a Pokemon, meaning that you have to constantly bring back these items that only serve one purpose. Sure, it works when you do it for the brand new fossil Pokemon that you want to debut, but when it comes to bringing back all the previous ones, it really can be a logistical nightmare. The Crown Tundra deciding to just treat the older ones like any other Pokemon worked really well, especially because there was an implied explanation. So really I just want to see that idea continued where they're all plopped into various locations that make sense. At the very least, these Pokemon are available to some degree on the Nintendo Switch, but when you realize that we're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of the Crown Tundra, it really makes you think. So let me know your thoughts on where fossil Pokemon currently stand in the series and what you'd like to see for them in the future. Again, we're barely halfway through Generation 9, so there could always be surprises up ahead, but at the moment it really just makes me see how confusing the whole thing is. Really, that is just my suggestion for, the next game that we end up getting probably after Legends ZA, to just start putting them into like post-game areas or just wherever. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. If you've got any suggestions for topics or videos you'd like to see about prehistoric Pokemon, leave those in the comments below as well, because I am ready and raring to go for even more fossil Pokemon videos as we head right into Fossil Week. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Cemetery Hill, Peel the Genius, SB Jump, Corelli Stromboli, Justin Dowes, Al Rome, Pastel Blood, Cosmo Zero, Mr. Saturn, Rainfrux, Cheez-It62, Switch Cheese, Michael Snyder, Lockadox, Gallantry, Gator Kid 509, TF, Cheeseburger Lasers, Mathaclock 947, The Shadow and Josh Show, Taijirai, Justin R, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, and get access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes watch videos early, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I'll catch you all later.
A new power has surfaced. Pokemon trading card game Diamond and Pearl Mysterious Treasures. You can catch the next wave of powerful Pokemon. Diamond and Pearl Mysterious Treasures in stores now. Each booster pack of 10 cards sold separately.